Lee came over today, and one of the things that we do is we have film scanners that can actually scan this in 4K digital. And so we take the old 35 millimeter prints, we scan them into a brand new master at the highest resolution you can do. We also do it in HDR. So if you look on your phone, when you take pictures, you can turn on HDR, which does that kind of high range of color. We're doing that with the film. So we're actually taking 9 pictures of every frame of film and building out this really high resolution image to start with. We then go in and do the color correction. We do all the fixing of any blemishes, scratches in the film, and we come out with a print that looks brand new. It looks like you would have saw it in the theater right as it came out.
Now, what was your history? When we went out to dinner that night, you told me a story that was just fucking blown away. Like, I was just sitting there.
Yeah, so
a student.
I actually I grew up in Maine and went to school in Boston. When I moved to Boston in '83, and 2 weeks in Boston, I was looking for a job to help pay for school, and I got an internship at the Celtics office. And so I was in there, and I'm handing out flyers to the press and just doing odd jobs and whatever. And this is, '83. There's no real computers anywhere. Personal computers don't really exist that much. The PC had just come out. And so I was kicking around the office, and I had done a lot of programming on PCs. And so I convinced these guys, hey, you need computers to do this. They're doing the stats by hand. You got 6 guys sitting at the scoring table every game. One guy's doing tally marks for the free throws. Another guy's doing shots. Another guy's doing rebounds. After the game, these guys have to sit there and tally all this stuff up, type it up on a typewriter, print it out, and then send it on a mimeograph to the league office. And I said, this is crazy. There's this thing called a spreadsheet. You can have one guy type this into a computer. Boom, you're done. You print it out. 5 minutes later, you're done. So for the next 7 years, I worked at the Boston Garden for the Celtics, doing all their IT, all their computers. At the same time, I picked up a job at BCN. Do you remember WBCN?
Of course, yeah. They used to be a great rock channel.
Yeah, it was a classic rock station. So I had developed this little box that you plug into your PC, and you type in, and it would speak. And this is based on one of the old Texas Instruments chips way back when. It was very crude, but it was, it was pre-Siri, right? This is what you could do in the 80s, like War Games, if you remember that movie. They had the talking computer.
Oh, yeah.
It was, do you want to play a game? Really crude stuff. So I'm at the Garden. The sports guy who was doing coverage for WBCN would come in, and one of my jobs was, before the game, I was sitting at the press gate handing out the stat sheets and everything for the night to all the media. And this guy comes in, and I pulled him aside. I said, hey, Tank, who do I talk to get an interview at your radio station? I have a really great idea. So he gives me the phone number of the program director. So I call this guy up, and instead of talking to him, I have the computer talk to him. And he's digging it, right? This is early 80s. People don't do this crazy stuff. So he says, what are you doing tomorrow morning? I said, nothing. I just got class at 10. He's like, can you be at the studio at 5? Absolutely. Bring your computer with you. He sets me up, and they have a morning show there that's sort of like a Howard Stern type show. It's called Charles Aquadera and the Big Mattress. They sit me down next to Billy West. Do you know who Billy West is?
No.
One of the funniest guys you ever meet. He's a comedian. He did voices for Ren and Stimpy. He filled in at Stern's show for a while after Jackie left. Anyways, he was there. He's a comedian, local comedian in Boston, and they sit me down next to him, and he just starts writing out jokes. Hands me a sheet of paper. Just type this. So I just type blindly whatever, and we have this computer like doing crank phone calls, calling people up, going, "This is the IRS. You owe $8 million," right? Waking people up in the middle of the morning with this talking computer. I was on the air the next day. It was just crazy. It was a really just like, wow, a neat intro into, and I really got into radio and music at that point. And I started working the morning show, started working Sunday nights, producing a new music show, started DJing, doing a lot of gigs there in Boston. And so I kind of had the dream 2 jobs in the world in Boston, right? I worked for the Celtics, worked for BCN, and that helped put me through college. So I was there from 83 to 90.
Wow.
Yeah, and then while I was in college, I wrote a little program that sped up computers. Back in those days, hard drives were really slow. And a buddy of mine and I had built this program that made them really fast. And we got a call from Ashton Tate, who had a program called DBase, a big database program. And we sold it to them. And that gave me the freedom to do whatever I wanted. And so all of my college buddies had already moved out to California, to the Bay Area, because that's where all the computer companies were, all the, the high tech was happening. And so in '90, I pulled up and just moved out to California. And I got out there and picked up a job at Bank of America, and it was just boring as hell. Just doing a trading software, and it's just like, this is not what I want to do. And I got a call from a buddy of mine who was working on a game for Sega, on the Sega Genesis. He's like, we need your help. So I was like, absolutely, I'm in. Told the bank, thanks, here's my 2 weeks, I'm out of here. Started writing video games. And so did the Spider-Man versus Kingpin, and then that went really well, so started doing more and more games, and did a bunch of games for the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo through the 90s. And happened to be in San Francisco right when the whole internet was kicking off and multimedia, and we actually built this really cool thing that was way too before its time, but we built something that was called the Sega Channel. And what this was you took your Sega Genesis up, put your cable TV cable into your Sega Genesis, and it would download games over the cable TV system.
You invented the internet, essentially?
No. This is before the internet. But what we did was we gave you the ability to download games using the cable TV system.
How would that work?
You took the wire from your wall.
Okay.
You ran it into your Genesis. We made a little adapter, and you ran that out to your cable TV box. So we just had a channel. It was a special channel on the cable system that would send games down to your game console.
That's amazing.
So it was really fun to do, but it was way before its time, and nobody really got it. They were like, "Well, no, you put a cartridge in." It's like, no, you don't. You hit the menu and it'll download. So we kicked around doing that for a while. Did a bunch of games on the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, and during that time, you could develop a game. You could do 3 to 4 months with 4 or 5 guys. You could do a game, and these systems, if you remember, it was pretty shitty graphics, and you didn't have a lot of memory. The game cartridges that the games came on, that was less than a floppy worth of storage. So you didn't have a lot of room for anything. So your music was pretty low quality music. Your graphics were very small.
But the games are always so fun.
Oh yeah, well you had to make them fun because they didn't look good.
Yeah.
They didn't sound good. So your only choice is to make them really fun to play.
My mom never let me have video games. So my first one was, I got a PS1 when the PS2 came out. I was so far behind.
Well, the PS1 was what got me out of the video game business in the home console market, because what happened is we were kicking out 3 to 4 games a year, and it would cost us about $100,000 to produce a game. And so of those 4 games we did a year, say, 1 just got dropped. None of the publishers would ship it. 2 of them you'd ship, but they didn't do very well. You'd break even, make a little money. 1 of them did well. You made some good money. That's where you made your profit. So it's kind of like we were talking about earlier, about where you take 10 calls and maybe you get two callbacks.
We're going in like fucking Marines. You understand me?
Welcome to church, motherfucker.